Bismillah walhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Welcome back. And alhamdulillah, we're continuing with our show. And right now we are going to be looking at the Islamic family court at large. Earlier on, we were just looking at the marriage workshop, which is going to be taking place in October until the 5th of November, inshallah. But right now, with Molana Husain Evans, inshallah, we'll be unpacking the family court at large and see what other programs that they do besides marriage counseling, etc. Inshallah ta'ala. Jazakallah khairah for answering the call, Molana. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Maulana Yunus, and I extend my greetings to all your listeners and viewers as well.
Jazakumullah khairan, Maulana, for being with us tonight. It is really an honor to have Maulana on our program. Now, just trying to unpack what does the IFC do, and what other programs, inshallah, people can also try and be part in. Now, the first question we have in line is, what is the IFC and why was it established in the first place?
Well, the best way I can describe the Islamic Family Court, it's more like a network of imams and ulama, which predominantly come from the previously designated colored areas under the apartheid regime. So this is like areas like Bosmont, Riverlea, Florida, Maritzburg, Westbury, Coronationville, New Clay, Newlands, El Dorado Park, and surrounding areas. So it's more like a network, like not formally like an organization. Because we use the word Islamic Family Court or the word family court, there mustn't be a misunderstanding that we are aligned with any secular courts in the country. That's a different ballgame. We are primarily concerned with the Islamic institution of nikah. We don't cover all marriages. And we also with the institution of talaq and fisq. These are terms which are exclusive to Islam. Obviously, there is certain things that overlap with the secular sense of marriage. But sometimes when we use the word marriage and nikah interchangeably, we think that they refer to the same thing. Whereas a nikah, as you know, in Islam, there are certain conditions and criteria that have to be met in order for it to be regarded as legally valid Islamically. Whereas for marriage, there's much less conditions that need to be met. We look at the LGBTQ movement and gender equality in our country. Same-sex marriages are allowed. In Islam, we know that will not be regarded as a nikah. So there's similarities in the name, but as far as the functions of a nikah and the conditions between a nikah and a marriage are not always the same. So we primarily concern ourselves with the Islamic institution of nikah and obviously the Islamic procedures with regards to talaq and fisq, the termination of marriages.
Subhanallah.
All right. And then we get that's the what. What is the Islamic Family Court? Now we come to the why, the second part of your first question. So the reason we started this year is because in our areas, in the colored communities, many masajid will have only one appointed imam. Very rarely will you find more than one imam at any specific masjid. And most of these areas that I mentioned will have one masjid only and one mosque only. And sometimes the ulama, they stay in that area are fewer than the fingers on a person's hand. Or should I go as far as saying fewer than the amount of thumbs you have in one hand? So this is the human resources is scarce. So every imam is working in his area, he's working in a silo, he's working not networking or conversing with other people. And then as the imam, sometimes he's regarded or expected to be a superman. He's doing normal lay counseling, he must do marriage counseling, he must do nikahs, he must do talaqs, he must do janazas, he must do the baby naming. He must be at the masjid all the time, 5 times a day for salah. There's tajweed programs, he must have qiraat programs. Maulana Munib touched on Hajj classes if he's into that, and the Jumu'ah that he has to give every Friday and other programs he has in a masjid. So you have one person who is not made out of black cat peanut butter being spread very, very thin in his community. So we decided, let's work together, because as imams we become overwhelmed and we can pull on resources in our community as well. So certain areas are blessed, alhamdulillah, they have more than one Maulana resident in the area, and we can use them and we rope them in as well. So we spread the workload as well. So as far as the marriages and divorces and counseling and anything to do with the family unit is concerned, not everything is resting on the imam of that masjid's shoulders alone. We've got help and we can help and assist each other as well. The other thing also, we've traditionally, I'll speak about the Johannesburg, Gauteng area only, you've got maybe 2 or 3 organizations that became well established, assisting women with specifically with annulment of the marriage. Now,
Right.
because you only have historically only 2 or 3 organizations that are doing this here, what you get is a bottlenecking, because
Mm.
cases will be referred from ulama across the board, from imams within the city, within the province, and sometimes in the old designated Transvaal area as well. So you've got neighboring provinces as well.
Right.
Everybody sending their cases to one institution. Now you get
Mm.
the bottlenecking, and people become frustrated. Time is going. They think that the
True.
process is laborious. They feel like the women maybe feel that their pleas are not being heard.
Mm.
And one of the greatest contributing factors is there's hundreds of cases being all referred to one organization.
Mm.
And then this is what happens. So that organization could become overwhelmed as well. I mean, we've
True.
seen hundreds of cases. And then what we found in our communities is that women weren't afforded a platform in where they can voice their grievances, so that
Mm.
they can have their marriages annulled or to have their marriages terminated. Um, Historically, traditionally, we as Muslims are brought up with this misconception that only a man can terminate a marriage.
Right.
It's true Islamically that only a man can issue a talaq,
Right.
but it is also true Islamically that not only a man can terminate a marriage, there are avenues available to women. So these
Right.
are things that they were not educated about. I
Mm.
don't know if it's because of a lack of knowledge, or was there a hope that if they don't know, they can have the marriages terminated, maybe to keep the family unit together. For
Mm.
whatever the reason is, we can't understand what the reason was. We will just say maybe there's a lack of education, of educating the masses, and especially the women as well, as to their rights in a marriage and their rights to have a marriage terminated. I mean, I
Right.
just performed the nikah today after Maghrib Salah, and then while performing the nikah, I thought, it's so strange. We don't need a nikah certificate, Islamically speaking,
Right.
from a Sharia point of view. But we still print out certificate. We've got names, we've got surnames, we've got identity numbers. We make the husband sign and we make the wife sign a
Right.
nikah certificate. But we don't even need her to sign, because if her
Mm.
guardian is there, he represents her. He is there to give his permission for her to get married, and after getting consent from her to marry her off, and he is present, he signs on her behalf. Why do we still make her sign a nikah certificate? But then
Mm.
when it comes to a talaq, we make the husband sign a talaq letter and then marriage over. And this
Subhanallah.
happens with many, with certain organizations. It happens with certain imams in individual capacity. They would make the husband just sign a talaq letter, give it to the wife, and it's done. But
Mm.
when you wanted to have the marriage consecrated, when you want to contract the marriage, you wanted both of them to sign to show that they
True.
are equal partners in the marriage. But now,
Right.
when it comes to terminate the marriage, it seems like the husband has the overriding say, that he has more say in whether this marriage comes to an end, as
Right.
opposed to the wife. So women were maybe disenfranchised, or felt that they were not being treated as an equal partner in the marriage, and they wanted their marriages terminated for very good reasons also. I mean, not just because a woman wants out that she's not automatically going to get out of a marriage. There's a
Right.
certain procedure that has to be followed. Sharia due diligence has to be done as well. These are things we can get into in future programs. What Maulana Munib touched on earlier is like maybe 10% or 5% of what the IFC is about.
Mm.
And half an hour wasn't enough to explain. And many things he
100%.
hinted to you that you must ask me, but I'm going to be, look at it, that's 15 minutes gone already. I'm going to be
Subhanallah. Just
honest
like
with
that.
you. All right. We will not be able to touch on everything. If we make it a weekly program or monthly program, we can delve into more things as well.
No.
So, in order for a woman to have a marriage announced, I'll get back to why we started it. Because many
Okay.
women would approach me, as I was Imam at the Jummah Masjid in Al Dorado Park. Women would
Okay.
come forward and want the marriage annulled. Now I'm stuck now, because in order for marriage to be annulled, the case has to be heard by a qadi. In a Muslim
100%.
country, we can't have a Muslim judge be appointed, because the Muslim ruler has to appoint a judge, because a judge
True.
is a position. It's not something you can study to become.
True.
Like a lawyer becomes a judge. Nobody
Right.
goes to varsity to study to become a judge, so to say. He has to
Right.
go through, become a magistrate, and then he moves up the ranks. Then he becomes a judge. Now, in
Right.
Islam, we have a similar thing as well, when Maulana, Alim, or Mufti will be appointed as a Qadi. But that can only be done by the Muslim president. And
True.
we don't have a Muslim president. We're 2% Muslim in this country. It's never going to happen. So
Mm.
the alternative is to use Imam Malik's ruling of having 3 scholars sit on a panel.
Right.
But like I told you, the first problem, if I'm the only Imam in my area, and I don't have other 2 ulama to sit with me, how do I get this
Yeah.
panel
It's hard.
together?
True.
So then we decided, okay, let's get together, let's band together. So late in 2018, quite a few of the ulama of El Dorado Park, I'll mention a few, like Maulana Ismail Saban, Maulana Abdullah Abrams, Maulana Husain Evans, myself, Sheikh Abu Bakr Maru, Maulana Ashraf Abrams, Maulana Zubair Mlochwa. Quite a few of us, about 6, 7 of us got together, and
Mm.
along with Maulana Zakaria from Florida. And then we just started having preliminary discussions of getting this thing off the ground, and maybe we can help and assist each other. Because
Right.
Maulana Zakaria found himself in the same position we find ourselves, where we ace out. We one man at the masjid. He's
Right.
the only. Okay, now Maulana Munib has joined him. There's others have moved into the area, but at one point he was the only resident alim in Florida, where he is stationed.
Right.
So we got together, and in 2019 we started mobilizing other imams and ulama from various masajid, from Bosman, Rivoli, Horseshoe, New Clay, Westbury, Coronation, Maritzburg. We put our feelers out far and wide to try to get all these ulama and imams together so we can start networking as well. And the big why of why we started this Islamic family court is it so that we can fortify the family unit in as far as trying to make sure that marriages are contracted Islamically, that when they to save them, we using Islamic interventions to save it. And if it comes to that point where marriage has to be dissolved and terminated, that it is done also Islamically. As Allah mentions in the Quran, "Amsikuhunna bi ma'ruf, farikuhunna bi ma'ruf." Keep her in kindness or let her go in kindness. So this is what we the why of the Islamic family court.
Now, also, Molana, as you're busy speaking, you're alluding to a lot of points, but the ones that actually come up, which is the same question that I asked Molana Munib also earlier on, is in terms of the stats when it comes to, unfortunately, the last part, which is the annulment and also the divorce cases. Now, what has been the highlight in terms of the amount of divorces in the past? About 10, not 10 years actually, now it's about how many, that's 7 years inshallah, or five
5
years,
years.
5 years.
Right.
And also, which age group is now prone to divorces in those 5 years, as Modern has observed?
All right. We can go into the stats more in detail. I think we can do this maybe at the beginning of every year, and I can break down the stats for you from the previous years. But what I've been going through, I've been doing the stats for the last few weeks, trying to get things in order. What we found is that in 2019 we were undercover. We didn't promote ourselves. We didn't tell anybody that we are operating. So whichever woman came, we use it as a trial period. I don't want to say the guinea pigs because pigs are haram for us as Muslims. They were test subjects.
Right.
I don't say we experimented on them, but
Does a
we
trial.
used them to see where are the pitfalls in what we are doing in our processes.
Right.
And then as we found pitfalls, as we found when complaints are lodged or people weren't happy with certain things, I'll explain to you later if we get to that as well, the changes we've made. So we use all of that experience in 2019, being undercover, to try and get something that is streamlined, something that is standardized as well, and then something which is more professional in the way we do things. So we use it 2019 for that, but still we did about 37 terminations in 2019. From then until now, we're sitting on 350 terminations of marriages in 5 years. Last year was our busiest year. We did 99 terminations. This year, because of last year, everybody's saying, it's going a bit slow. We only did 60 terminations for the year. So this far. And we're not talking the whole of Johannesburg. We're talking only about these, like I said, so-called colored communities that where we're operating. The age groups, there's been very few of married 20 and 30 years. The majority are people married less than 10 years. The people getting divorced the most are your tweenies, the newlyweds, people getting married in their late 20s. We did surveys as well to find out what the problems were,
what
what
could
were
be the
the
main
obstacles. Unfortunately, those things don't change. For the last 1,000 years, it's been the same. And if you compare what causes our marriages to end as Muslims, it's the same as across the board with religions and with people who are atheists and have no religion, because that speaks to the human nature part of a relationship. It's not always marriage ending because of some Islamic directive or some Islamic consideration. The majority of the time, it's because of the relationship itself, that there's an issue with the marital relationship. So more on a human being interaction point of view than rather people going against Quran and Sunnah in their marriages. So what we also did find is our overall average of the marriages we terminated, the average the length of a marriage is about 7.5 years. So that 7 year each is a real thing. It's a reality.
So that means if a person does make it after 7 years, they've actually
chances
gone
are
into the
high
safe zone.
Yes, because like I said, the ones that we've terminated of decades, like 20 and 30 years, I think one was 40 years, they are very rare. Very, very rare indeed. If you make it to 8, 9 years, then chances are you are going to make it all the way.
Subhanallah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy.
I
Now,
mean,
the next question also, Molana, as I mean, we speak about the IFC Islamic Family Court. Now, what happens in situations where now kids are involved in the, can say, the feud or whatever it may be, in terms of the kids being neglected? Now, does the IFC also come into play in helping them, or, for example, maybe the father is not around to take care of them, the kids don't have any family members who are there also to take care of them. Now, also we have a lot of cases in the townships of family, I mean, child-led families. Now, how does the IFC also play a role in those situations?
right, when it comes to the children's rights, it's a very touchy point in our country. I don't
Mm,
know if you've heard a few months ago, I think it was Maulana Muhammad Ismail, who is a Maulana and an advocate as well, speaking about the minimum age of marriage in the country being 18 years old. And
mm,
one of the reasons he mentioned it is because of human trafficking laws. So
right.
the country is quite stringent when it comes to human trafficking, to
Mm,
such an extent that if you were to open up an orphanage and you don't tick all your boxes or you don't have all your paperwork, they'll close you down.
mm,
Even if everything is above board, like you're not running a trafficking ring there, but
link.
because you
True.
haven't got everything in order, I think your organization can be closed down because they take it very seriously. And when we discuss this with magistrates as well, with lawyers as well, when it comes to child custody, visitation,
Mm,
the maintenance of the children, and we were told stay out of it. You know, you
right.
can advise them from an Islamic point of view on what must happen, but there are
Mm,
courts for that. Don't even get involved with it.
sure.
So that's what we were advised as far as the kids are concerned. But as far as children in broken homes, maybe we're not talking about negligent fathers. We're talking about more serious cases, and not only when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to marriage. I mean,
Right.
this is or women in vulnerable positions. There are organizations that we've aligned with, that we've teamed up with, that will assist more with the abused women or women find
Mm,
themselves in. They've got nowhere to go because many times we've had women apply for an annulment of a marriage only to
right.
pull it back because she knows if this marriage is annulled, where do I go to?
Yeah.
You know, I knew of an incident. I must write a book on this of a woman
Subhan.
who actually slept in the front room of a house while the husband was sleeping in the bedroom with the girlfriend. And then I asked her, why didn't you go leave? And she said, I've got so many kids from him. Where will they go to? If I leave, they're
Subhan.
using to look after the kids. I've got nowhere to
Subhan.
go to. I've got
Sure.
nowhere to go to. So it's
Allah.
fine. Let him carry on. As long as he's a good father, he's providing for them, it's fine. I'll make the sacrifice. Another incident as a woman with came with blue eyes. You know,
Mm,
um, one day was one blue eye, the next day was a different blue. A few months later, a different blue eye, and same thing. But where do I go to when this marriage is annulled? So there
sure.
are certain gaps that we are seeing, and there are certain shortfalls that we have as an organization to understand
Mm,
that we can't. What is our scope in our mandate? How far can we go in assisting people? But alhamdulillah, in the last couple of years, we've got a loose arrangement with one of the organizations not far from here that will
mm,
take in the abused women as well. And alhamdulillah, I took a few of these ladies in to help them, to readjust them, to I don't want to say reprogram them, but to create some self-esteem, self-worth, improve their self-image, and to get them ready
mm,
for the world as well. So
inshallah.
that's working out as well. So that
Alhamdulillah.
is something in the pipe. But as far as the kids are concerned, I think it's a tricky
It's a
game.
very touchy topic.
Yes, very touchy topic. Yeah,
Now, in terms of expansion of the IFC, Molana, what do you have in place, inshallah, for the upcoming future, inshallah?
we do not, and we are not entertaining any ideas of expanding across the city,
Right,
across the province, or across the country. At the moment now, because we are imams in our area, so
mm,
we are managing the cases where we are. If we have to
right,
expand citywide or even provincially, we'll be understaffed, under resourced as well.
100%,
And because it's
100%.
our communities, we are imams serving in these areas. So
Mm,
the work that we do at the IFC is pro bono. Nobody's charged
right,
for services at the IFC, especially the termination
mm,
services as well. We don't charge anybody to access the IFC for termination of marriages or even for nikahs as well. Because it's something we would have been doing in our personal capacity because we are imams
exactly.
in those
Imams.
areas. But now,
Right,
if we have to expand further, then we're going to be understaffed and overwhelmed again because then everything comes to one organization.
true.
But we only operate on Sunday mornings,
Mm,
so 2 hours on a Sunday morning from 10 to 12, basically in El
sure.
Dorado Park for the southern suburbs, and in Horseshoe, for those suburbs which are located centrally on the west end. And between those 2 hours on a Sunday, because of all the people volunteering, maybe one
Mm.
Sunday only, so the Imam doesn't have to do it every week, we
Right.
see about over 1,000 appointments a year,
Sure.
easily,
Subhanallah.
from on both sides, ranging out across the board in the spectrum of our services. What we will do is we will assist any community
Mm.
in starting something up like this. We've been approached already from an organization on the East End. They're busy getting their premises ready, and maybe in the next 2 or 3 months, they're going to be up and running and they're going to run
Inshallah.
their own thing. So, what we will
Inshallah.
share is we will share our expertise, we will
Mm.
share our experiences, what knowledge that we've gained as well on this, our material, our stationery. We will share everything with them. And we're willing to give it, like what the program Molana Munib is having. We've got a PowerPoint
Mm.
presentation. There's even the books that come with it as well. We will give it to any other organization that wants to do it. And they can remove Islamic Family Court from there. They can put their own logo. And it can be
Mm.
Salam Media that's doing it. And Salam Media is doing fasahs. And Salam Media is doing talaks. And we will share everything, our processes, our policies, our procedures, everything, because we can't monopolize this. And then there are
Right.
nuances from community to community, things that we picked up on as well. Like people coming from certain indigenous communities, what
Mm.
we found is, because we don't come from those areas, that
Right.
the family intervention is a very big thing
True.
in their marriages. Like before even terminating a marriage, you need to have a family meeting.
Hmm.
With our communities, it's not something which is intrinsic in our nature that we must have a family meeting. But then we
Right.
found that they have to have one. Then they will not take a step forward until there's a family meeting. So it
True.
could be that every community, there is something that's nuanced to them.
Mm.
So that's why it's important for their scholars to be able to handle their cases and their leaders and their imams, because they will be
100%.
privy to all of these things. So that's why we
100%.
can assist any community that's our neighbors right next door to us, those who are across in another province, or even across the continent as well, over the seas as well. It
Mm.
doesn't really matter. We will assist with everything. Our whatever we have at our disposal, which we've developed over the last 5 years, is not trademarked. So we
Sure.
don't mind sharing it with anybody and assisting them in getting the thing started and up and running. It would be an ideal situation. Every community should have some services like this. And if
100%.
they can't do it, they can do what we do, network with a few other communities close by, and then you
Right.
guys, people can work together.
No, inshallah, most definitely, man. And I believe that on a united front, we can actually achieve more and the results will be very effective. Even if, let's say, it only reaches like maybe three, four houses down the road, but if it's effective, alhamdulillah, then we'll see the results of it. Again, at the beginning of the previous point with Maulana Munib, why is this all set up is because we want to protect the Muslim family and the community and make sure that it's strengthened on the Quran and Sunnah and all the teachings of Deen. Jazakallah khairan, Maulana. Unfortunately, we have come to the end of our show, but I'll give Maulana,
Barakallah feek.
inshallah, maybe a minute to just give us some closing points before you can go, inshallah, Maulana.
Right, so my appeal is more to organizations, committees, jamaats, imams, and maulanas, that maybe they should seriously consider doing something like this. I'll just tell you from our point of view, from administrative point of view, because I'm more like an administrator. Maulana Munib is more hands-on, interactive, on the ground.
Right.
So from an administrative point of view, what we've tried to achieve and what we're striving for, we haven't reached there yet, is to create a level of professionalism within the imam, in the way that we had quality assurance. Ladies come in, actually sit in with our imams when we're having cases,
Mm.
not critiquing, but rather looking at the way they dress, the way they speak, the language that they use, their body language, giving them tips on how to be more presentable and to be more professional in their conduct. Because you don't want
Mm.
the Molana coming in and say, "Oh, laikala," speaking like a gangster and so on. You want
Right,
a
right, right,
certain level of decorum, and
right.
social convention to be adhered to. And then
100%.
also we came together to standardize certain procedures. It
Mm.
mustn't be that somebody comes to you for first or talak and you do it one way and I do it a different way.
Mm.
Or because they came to you, they bumped up in the queue, they get preferential treatment. So we
Right.
try to standardize procedures across the board. This is how a nikah is done. This is how a talaq consultation gets done. This is how a fasakh application gets processed. One of the things we pride ourselves on also is in confidentiality.
Mm.
So at present, unless you are there in the case, you have no idea who came and accessed any services of the IFC. We do not
Mm.
share this information. It is not made known to anybody. We don't get together and discuss this imam came, that auntie came, and this uncle came,
Mhm.
and we don't discuss it. We don't discuss
Alhamdulillah.
cases at all. The only person that knows the personal details of any client that access our service is the imam or Molana that consulted with him.
Mm.
That information is not made, like I said, we don't make it available to anybody else. We pride ourselves on our confidentiality and privacy.
Alhamdulillah.
To the extent, if you have to ask me a question, hey, my sister came and what was the outcome, I'm going to tell you, Maf, I'm not going to discuss it with you. Sorry.
100%.
We put you
Subhanallah.
off immediately. The other thing is we've tried to become an organization that includes women as well. So we've included 5 ladies in our organization, some
MashaAllah.
specifically for counseling one-on-one with the women, because the intermingling of sexes is a big problem. People
100%.
can rave on about it, but it's a scientific fact that a strange man and a strange woman cannot be in a platonic relationship. That doesn't
100%.
exist. So we've included a woman as well for the counseling when there's one-on-one counseling, and we've included a woman to process our annulment applications, the FSF applications. And the idea of that was that when a woman comes, let's say your sister comes to the Islamic family court, we
Mm.
want the first person that she's introduced to be a woman, so
Mm.
she can feel like it's someone that can relate to her, and that
True.
woman will hold her hand, walk her through the entire process, be with her until the end when it comes to a hearing, and assist her after that as well. So she sees a
MashaAllah.
familiar face. And
Mm.
because in the beginning we had 3 men sitting, so now the woman comes in, she sees 3 Molana sitting, her husband sitting on the other side. She feels like, this is so daunting. I must come and make
Yeah.
a case for my marriage to end. Because there's 4 men against me. But we're not against her
Subhan.
because we're not on anybody's side. We're listening to a story. But the
Right.
optics of it alone, the optics just seeing 4 men, it becomes daunting and intimidating.
True.
So we've introduced ladies to sit with them as well in the hearings. And because they see a woman there, then they feel more at ease, they feel more comfortable. They don't feel like,
Masha.
they under interrogation now.
Mm.
So these are the
Right.
things that work for us. Yeah. Okay.
No, Alhamdulillah, Maulana, and we really make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it a success, and so for more people, inshallah, to also benefit from it, and other
Amen.
localities and other communities, inshallah, who are really willing to come up and ask for assistance where it's needed, inshallah, can learn from Maulana and the rest of the team, which is very well experienced in this game. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy and make it a success, and help us
Amen.
all to understand more and be in touch with all these things that we are facing now. We really need that assistance. Jazakumullah khairan, Maulana. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala
Barakallah
accept.
fik.
And we really appreciate your time. And inshallah, we will most definitely have another program, Maulana, because there's a lot of things to speak about. And unfortunately, the time wasn't on our side, though. Jazakumullah khairan.
Barakallah fik. So I'm waiting for your message for October.
Inshallah.
All right.
It's coming through. Inshallah.
Okay.
Right. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Alhamdulillah, that brings us to the end of our show. Subhanallah. These are that type of programs that we really need to be in touch with. We really need to take part in, especially for the marriage workshop which is happening. We will play that video once again before I go, inshallah, so that everyone knows the information which is there, so that we can also be in touch with the relevant people, inshallah ta'ala. So there's the program for the marriage workshop with Maulana Munib and Maulana Hussein also, and the IFC, which is a very wonderful program that I believe that everyone really needs this, inshallah ta'ala. Until we meet again next time on Thursday. Again, it is a beautiful Thursday night. A reminder to read Durood upon the Nabi of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, read your Surah Al-Kahf and all the other surahs which have been stipulated in the Sunnah, so which you need to read on a Friday. Have a beautiful Jum'ah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.